Hi, I am live here with another edition of the Movie Club. We are the Movie Club members and we're movie clubbing. So we have Faisal Hashimi, Omar Sharif, and Yusuf, who you guys seen in the comments a lot in previous YouTube videos. Now he has transcended from the comment section into the live section. So yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy couple of weeks, and now we're doing this sort of a mix between us talking live with me and hosting some people. And I have music in my ear. Hold on. Technical difficulties. Okay. So yeah. So we're here and we're pretty excited. I mean, we pulled this movie out of the hat last week, and it's actually pretty cool because this was a requested film to be on the list. Even though it was already on the list, but there's been like 4 requests, so I put it again. So it got picked. I increased its odds a little bit, to be honest with you, but it's out of 1,000. So for those of you guys who don't know, what we've been doing is we've put the movies from the 1,001 films to see before you die, and that plus top 100 AFI films plus top 100 films of all time on IMDb. So there's a lot of movies. There's like a huge pile in my afraid to drop. Oh, you can't see it now. Because I have the thing. Anyway, so yeah, so yeah, it's pretty cool. And last week we picked Silence of the Lambs, fantastic film, iconic film, really iconic horror film. This is why I asked Hashmi to be here, because he's a big horror connoisseur. I asked Omar El-Kay here because he is a horror himself, and it's awesome. And I think he would speak, he has volumes to speak about demented, crazy people who, who like to skin people alive. I think we're going to get some cool perspective. I just want to give a big shout out to the guys, to our regulars. We have Phoenix with us here again. Hi, Phoenix. Phoenix always posts like a question for me to think about a couple of days before the live. He gives me something to ponder, and actually his questions are pretty cool, so I'm definitely going to bring his question up today. We also have Neo, of course, leeching onto my live as always. Hi, Neo. We have Ahmed Sulaiman, and we have Steven. Hi, Steven. Steven joins us from, he's from New York, but he's here stuck in Dubai for at least a couple of years. And he recently messaged me about like really enjoying the movie club, and he's been here every time. So these are really our regulars, but we're up to 10 viewers now, which is pretty cool. We have there's somebody new here, probably from you, Yusuf. Shrirag, guys, like I'm gonna mess up these names, I'm sorry. But somebody says,
good
hey,
to see
Yusuf.
he finally joined.
Oh yeah, give me and share my other phone so I can share this as well and hopefully get more viewers for you.
Yeah. We also have Steven. No, there he is. Steven is here. So hi. Steven changed his profile picture, so I got confused. So let's get started. Let's talk about Silence of the Lambs. So that's been our film, a film that is absolutely iconic. It created an iconic character, Hannibal Lecter, Oscar-winning performance by Anthony Hopkins. We have Jodie Foster as the iconic Clarice. Big stuff. This film was nominated for a bunch of Oscars. I believe it won 4 or 5. It won Best Director. I know 4. It won Best Director. It won Best Actor for Anthony Hopkins, Best Actress for Jodie Foster, and Best Screenplay. Adapted screenplay is adapted from a book. Some people have read the book. Some people have texted me about the books. I've told them to be here in the YouTube to tell us about the books, because I haven't read the books, but I know of them. I believe I don't know what the 5th Oscar is. It could be production design, I'm not sure. I know it was nominated for editing. Anyway, it was a big film when it came out. So first impressions, guys. First of all, I'll go around and I want you guys to tell me, first of all, did you see it now with the movie club, or have you seen it a lot in the past? And what was your impression? If you've seen it now, what was your impression or first impression of it now, watching it recently? I'll start with you, Hashmi.
Yeah, I mean, I had seen it about 10 years ago. And this is when I was sort of getting into watching a lot of the 1990s movies that I skipped out on. And I really dug it. It was especially the performance. Like, even though I haven't seen the movie for 10 years, I remembered the scenes, including Hannibal Lecter specifically. Like, I knew them like almost by heart. So that's the kind of the power of that performance. But yeah, I did watch it today in the afternoon and pretty much finished right before we started filming this. And I've picked up so much more in terms of like things that I've sort of almost forgotten about, and things that I'm sort of picking up now in terms of themes. I think it's an iconic film. A lot of people, there's a debate whether you would qualify this as a horror film or as a thriller. But for me, like, you just have to look at the finale with the night vision and that whole situation. Like, that's horror. Like, that's straight up like horror. Like, I think if anybody has an argument, that scene should like flip the conversation towards towards horror. So yeah, I love the film. I think it's shockingly brutal for it has things that probably if that movie was made today, I don't think they would have gone as brutal or as like shocking in some of the moments. Even if it was an R-rated movie, they wouldn't have gone as far as they did in that film. So that was really interesting to see that we are looking at a time of movies where like there were less people sort of involved in these kind of committee decisions. So it's pure kind of like director and like writer driven material. So yeah, I loved it. I would love to discuss more.
Omar.
Well, see, first, I think it's the first or so far the only movie to win 5 Academy Awards, if I'm not mistaken, about the Academy Awards.
Really?
And
First film to win 5?
Like,
I'll check that.
Wow.
first,
Let's fact
like
check
the
that.
only one. It might be the first.
It might be first. I don't think it's only. I think Lord of the Rings won like 11 or something.
Yeah.
I think later on, like stuff like Lord of the Rings got like 18 or something.
Titanic,
Yeah.
you guys. Titanic.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not
Oh, yeah,
sure.
of
Let
course.
me see. I mean, I recall Gone with the Wind winning a lot of stuff. So let's see. I'll fact check that. Continue. So tell me your first impression.
First impression, I think it was showing on Channel 33, or back in the 80s. There's the box with the satellite dish, and it was showing on TV. And I remember was watching one scene when he was beating the guy up in the jail cell. And that kind of scared me, so I walked away. My dad was watching it. And then I came at the last scene in the movie, and it never made sense to me as a kid. And then when I watched the movie fully as an adult, I remember the last scene when he's walking away. So that's kind of like a memory for me, So when I started watching a lot of horror movies and reading behind the backgrounds and the histories of them, Silence of the Lambs, having Jodie Foster was actually a fluke. She wasn't the first choice.
It was Michelle Pfeiffer.
Second.
It was Michelle Pfeiffer. She
Was
fought
it
for it.
Michelle Pfeiffer?
Yeah, she fought for it hard. She wanted to be in this film big time. Jodie Foster, the cool thing about her is that she's a director at heart. And actually, like, I'll talk about some of that stuff, is that she made a lot of directorial decisions in this film, including the opening sequence. So you can see her budding as a director. So yeah, actually, Jonathan Demme, I believe the director, wanted Jodie Foster for it. And she actually wanted, when she read the book, she wanted the rights to it, but Gene Hackman had beat her to it because he wanted to make it himself. And he actually bought it, wanted to direct it and star as Hannibal Lecter. But then he saw himself in another film, don't remember what it was, but it's a film that he was playing like a really disturbed character, and he felt bad about himself. And he was like, I'm not going to do that again. So he sort of dropped the rights, and then it got picked up by the studios, and Jonathan Demme was hired to direct. And he wanted Michelle Pfeiffer. And he said that the reason why he gave her the role is because the way she approached him when she wanted to talk to him about taking the role, that she walked up to him with so much, like, she's very tiny. She has a very small stature, Jodie Foster, but she walked holding herself up so high with so much confidence, like, damn, that's Clarice. And that's how she got in the role. Yeah, you're right.
She was picked while competing against Meg Ryan and what do you call it? Holly Berry and one more. I can't forget.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
No. First choice actually turned it down. She didn't want to star in this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's Michelle Pfeiffer. It's from the girl from the I'm really bad names. From Married to a Mobster. That's Michelle Pfeiffer. Then she refused. And then there was 4 other women. One of them is Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
And like Faisal said, it's a horror movie, and a lot of people, think only the night, in the dark time, the night vision scene is the horror part, which actually has a movie mistake. You can see the shadow of the gun on her back.
Ah, nice. Well, yeah.
Nice.
Which, if it was shot in total darkness, it's just impossible.
Well,
night vision,
I hope someone got fired for that.
No, it's fine.
Somebody almost got. Actually, somebody did get fired. I can tell you who. And you can actually, the mistake the mistake that they make is actually, you can hear it in the film. There's, the scene where she goes to him when he's in the box. They go to Tennessee, right? Is that where they go? Yeah. And she's talking, where she talks about her past and how she tried to save the lamb, and she could hear them cry and all this stuff, right? That's in that scene when she says, I don't remember which line, but it's one of her lines, like one of her most important lines, when she says, what happened to your lamb? And she says, they killed him. I think around this point, right? When she's talking about that story, you can hear something drop in the background. And that's actually one of the crew who carry things. So the best boys, one of the best boys, which is one of the people who work for the lighting department. You don't need that. But anyway, one of the best boys dropped something, but she continued going because they didn't want to stop. And she didn't break character, and she delivered it, and it was her best delivery. And then the moment they pressed cut, she like turned around and yelled at this crew member, and the crew member probably lost his job. But you can hear it. It's one of those, you can hear it if you.
Well, that crew member is lucky that Christian Bale wasn't playing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Apparently, the first choice for other than Anthony Hopkins was Sean Connery. So I'm finding it funny that Hannibal Lecter could have had a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
But there was a Hannibal Lecter movie before this one, wasn't there?
Yes, I think Manhunt.
Manhunt.
You know, that's
Manhunt. Yeah.
But Anthony Hopkins made Hannibal Lecter. Yeah. Nobody remembers who played Hannibal.
Yeah, this is the like
iconic,
definitive sort of, you know.
Exactly.
You know, the Silence of the Lambs is when people complain and say, "Oh, horror movies are fictional; they're not scary as reality." I'm like, Silence of the Lambs is really real. They're like, no, it's not. I'm like, literally, a few days ago, John Oliver released a video on YouTube, and he shows some guy with authority, a governor or something for a state in America, that says that he's going to feed his neighbors to his daughters if it comes to it.
Oh, Alex Jones.
Alex Jones.
So he's open to capitalism. And people like, oh, you know, they don't do it these days. I'm like, they don't do it because there's food on the shelf, but take away the food on the shelf becomes your neighbor's house.
Okay. I want to move it over to you, Yusuf. I want to hear your first impressions. I know you rewatched it recently. I know Faisal just rewatched it today, last minute. But me and Yusuf actually coincidentally watched it last night at the same time because I was just posting I posted on Instagram like on the stories that I'm watching it, and then I saw him post as well around the same scene around the same time. I'm like, oh my god, we're watching it at the same time. So tell me, how did it feel going back to it now after having seen it before?
The lambs were very noisy last night. Yeah. Well, at the same time. So I watched this movie way younger than I should have been, I think. I think it was probably one of the movies I watched on VHS, so like mid-90s maybe. So it's been quite a while since I watched it originally. Of course, like this movie made such an impression, like I could probably remember most of what was going on in there.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed on the rewatch though, there is quite a bit of humor in this movie that I don't remember there being. Like there's a lot of dark comedy in here.
Yeah.
Explain.
Of dialogue by Hannibal Lecter, yeah.
I mean, I think some of the best comedy in the film is probably coming from my most hated character, which is the guy at the hospital.
Oh, definitely.
Oh my god!
And then at the end, where he's like, "I'm having a friend over
for dinner." Iconic line. Yeah.
He just like follows him along. That was the best. The best ending. But my god, the scenes in this movie though, like every scene could be a short movie in itself almost, especially the scenes where they're talking in the hospital. Like I think I posted a link on Facebook a while back analyzing the first scene, and it's just like yeah, such a well constructed movie. The
whole film actually is full of like these little bits. Yeah. Did you didn't notice these things the first time around, and then now?
What I love from what I love in the opening is like how they kind of, if you haven't seen the movie before, and when he sends Dr. Crawford, sends her to like all the way inside the prison, and she's that dread that it builds up, like, oh, who is this Hannibal Lecter dude that like who's so protected? But then when you kind of see him, it's almost like a reversal from what you expect, because you're seeing all these like monstrous people on the way to her, but then you just see him and he's kind of like a very well-mannered, just a very normal-looking kind of guy. So you're like, wait, like the glass in front of him is like, you're like, that seems like there should be a monster inside, but on the first impression, it seems like just a very well-mannered doctor. So that I felt was really, really cool.
Exactly.
Good point. Yeah, that's why they actually, that's why they have that glass between them. Because originally, and of course in the book, he's supposed to be behind bars. We do see him behind bars later, but in the opening scene, this is, of course, like the production design in this movie is fantastic. In the opening scene, and in the way that his cell is done is fantastic. The glass separating him just to make him seem more elegant than all the other inmates, because like you said, Faisal, they make a point visually to show us the kind of degenerate psychopathic characters that would be in a place like this, and that Hannibal is different. Hannibal's not like everybody else in there, extremely different, and also it also allows for the intimacy between them. When we're cutting between the two of them, there's nothing in between them, there's no bars, so it feels like they are building some sort of relationship and some sort of bond. If you had anything in the way of that, that would have interrupted it. I also I don't know if you guys have any thoughts, but I also like the cell is built. It's built with this the bricks in the back, which is not a very unusual way. Most cells don't look like that. Most cells have white walls, especially for mentally disturbed individuals. They surround them by white walls in order to calm them and not aggravate their imagination. So it's very interesting that we suddenly see in this place, we see the bricks in the back. And if you think, it looks like a dungeon, it looks like this underground underbelly beneath the level of human society, medieval in a sense, because of the themes of torture and things like that. And it really does also mirror Buffalo Bill's house in the end as well, which is also surrounded by all these bricks. So I think one of the things that makes Silence of the Lambs stand out after all these years, after all this time, is that it has there's so much happening underneath the surface in this film. There's a lot of details that make it so multi-layered, and it builds visually, especially visually, like Yusuf, you're pointing out the scene. And I want to talk about the camera. The camera work in this film is very unique and different than many of the crime films of that same era. And by the way, the 90s is the best era for crime films for me. And this is sort of a crime horror. It's a mix of the two. But that crime kind of like Seven and this kind of stuff. So so visually, what does anything stand out for you guys visually, or in terms of visual treatment, that makes this film stand out and feel so different?
Well, the final scene in the dark. I mean, that's just, I don't think I've ever seen anything that even gets close to it, where you're not just the whole movie, especially, we'll probably get to this later, they build up Jodie Foster as this very vulnerable person, a bit of sexism going around. And then the end is literally the gaze that's just following her around, So that was just such a well shot scene.
Good point. There's a lot of, when you watch it again as an adult, you notice the movie has a lot of sexism towards her. As a teenager, as a kid, you don't notice these things. But now as an adult, I just watched it again recently, and I'm like, wow, did he really try to pick her up? He's supposed to do his job right now.
And it's very it's not even in your face, and it's not it's things you pick up now, and the way she's handling it, he's trying to be professional in her response and not confrontational. I'm like, wow, that's this is probably the everyday life of a woman like that in a male dominated environment in a law enforcement.
I mean,
lots of subtle visual clues. She's always running against. She's always running against the other agents as well. They're always running the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And the elevator scene at the beginning, it's Jodie Foster's a small person, but it's what was that?
No, there's scenes like that. When he's trying to pick her up, and when they're demeaning her. There's also when she gets into the when she's talking to these police officers or sheriffs or whatever,
asking them to step out,
and they're all guys, and they're looking at her like she's like an alien. They're like, what? A woman is giving who's this woman? That's how they're looking at her. And then there's a scene when she gets in the elevator and it's nothing but guys, and they're all looking at her strangely. And I'm like, oh, there's a police officer female here.
Yeah, let me sell you on this.
That's the first.
Let me sell you on this. So that's very cool. So it's cool that you guys are noticing this, because this is sort of the point. So this film is about two things, right? It's about identity and transformation. Those are the main themes of the film. So identifying with who you are and somehow projecting that identity outwards, which in Clarice's case, the Buffalo Bill is the representation. He has identity crisis and he wants to transform. He's obsessed with transformation. That's why he's obsessed with moths and so on and so forth. But it applies to everybody here. It applies to Clarice as well. So for Clarice, her identity is her feminism, right? She's a woman in a man's world. And like Yusuf pointed out, it's absolutely obvious from the opening sequence, and this is what I'm talking about. By the way, the first sequence of the film that was supposed to open is actually of Clarice in the training sequence, where it turns out to be like a training sequence. She was against that, and she wanted this opening scene of her running in the woods and against the other people, and then just walking into like this man's world kind of thing, and which is again her beginning to blossom as director. So her identity as a woman is constantly as if it's anchoring her in this world of men by how men treat her and look at her all the time. There's the obvious flirting with her and looking at her, glaring at her sexually. There's that. And it goes from extreme even to that guy like throwing his stuff at her. But then there's also just the way that her boss treats her when he says we shouldn't talk like that. Even the people that she looks up to still view her as that, and she's constantly fighting against this, trying to be still herself. She's not. You'd expect like a character like that to be written in a way where she's very macho because she's between like a lot of men, so she'd be very macho, very aggressive. But no, she's still very delicate.
But Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah, exactly. But she's not, which is cool, you know, which is again what feminism is all about. It's about the identity of a woman not being something that holds her back, and that's what she's fighting. And then of course her transformation as well, gaining the power and gaining her footing in this man's world, gaining their respect. With her intelligence, with her ability, with her deductiveness, is something that has nothing to do with her as a woman. And one of the coolest things, especially back then, guys, up until the 90s, till now, but especially back then, you would never see a female character, especially a female lead character, without an interest, without a male interest, a love interest, a male figure that she's going to, you know. The only figure she actually like goes to is Hannibal Lecter, but Hannibal Lecter respects her. There's nothing sexual between them. It's very like, there's this mental respect and connection. So it's way ahead of its time with these themes and stuff. So that's why you see her in those sequences of her just looking at the men. And even visually, the camera work in this film reflects this so much, where most of the time, it's about glaring, right? Identity, like when you're self-conscious about your identity, you're self-conscious about how people look at you and see you. And that's why it's framed in a very unusual way, where you see all these POV shots, these close-ups of people's faces staring at her all the time. And when it's on her, which, Faisal, you're a filmmaker, you know, like the reverse shot, they're looking straight into camera, but her reverse shot is off camera, which is highly unusual. But it makes us feel like they're staring at her. And then we see her like sort of, makes us her, because we're avoiding that gaze. It's not her point of, it's not equal kind of point of view. So it's a very powerful feminist film without flaunting it in a very annoying way, which is something I really appreciate.
I also like even the fact that she's, you know, as you mentioned, she's kind of like, she's a vulnerable sort of a human person, and she never loses that till the end of the film. It's not like in the final act she's a badass. Even in that whole confrontation with Buffalo Bill at the end, you could see she's afraid. She's like, she obviously didn't expect to be,
she's pooping her pants.
Confronting Buffalo Bill. She just, yeah. So like, so even though she does like do the heroic act of actually saving the day, she never does it in like a badass, like, oh, I'm just gonna like. It's still within character of the fact that she is like afraid of it, but she still has to go through it. So I like the fact that they never like made it seem like she has to get over her vulnerability to become, you know, hero. Like it's fine that she is vulnerable and still brave, you know.
But that's what makes her so great. She's believable. Like this is how a normal human being would go through, you know. Yeah. It's not like she has superpowers or she can, you know, lift planes or whatever. She's a normal person. She can die at any moment.
Yeah, they never lose her femininity, is what we're saying, which is again a very nice way to empower. And I like that it's subtle, guys. It's not, and like I have people in the comments now commenting about my comment, which I've posted a big like rant about hate. I hate that certain films get labeled as female centric. And a lot of people didn't understand and took it, you know, some people got offended by what I said because they're like, women don't have enough movie. Like I know, I'm a woman. I don't have enough representation, not as a woman, nor as an Arab, nor as a Muslim, nor as an anything. But like, as a redhead even. Anyway, I'm not really a redhead, but yeah, a redhead at heart at least. As a curly-haired person, they're all straight-haired, so that's natural. Anyway, so like, yeah, there's not enough curly-haired female characters. Anyway, that's another story. But like, I hate when they label the film female-centric film or a female-led film as a label to define what it is. Speaking of identity, you know, this movie is a female lead film. It's a female lead film. It's female-centric. It's a woman saving another woman. Like, Even the side character, even her pivotal character is a female friend, not a boyfriend, not a husband. This is an extremely feminist film, but nobody feels it. It doesn't feel like it's being forced. It feels natural and organic, and it's definitely, I watched it as a kid and I was very empowered. I was also very disturbed by what I saw, and I got traumatized, and it explains a lot. But also, yeah, that's the point.
Let's be very honest with ourselves. The world is very biased and it's very one-directional. The whole world said, if you don't like, well, not the whole world, but a lot of people online said, if you don't go watch the new female Ghostbusters, you're not a feminist, you're against women.
Yeah.
At the same time, Annihilation came out with Natalie Portman, which is actually a great movie. You can see it on Netflix. It's full female.
Yeah, full female. I love that film.
Not even a squeak came out about it.
Because that's the thing, because these people and these reactions and everything you're talking about is a marketing thing. It's a marketing tool. It's not real. It's not organic. It's made by people who care about women or want to empower them. And the people who watch it, like, it's irrelevant is what I mean. This is why I don't like when but the moment a film or a show or anything is labeled as that, before we even, and I reacted like this because they're talking about the new Star Wars series that's done by the creator of Russian Doll, and they said, oh, the creator of Russian, this is the article only gave me 2 pieces of information. Creator of Russian Girl doing Star Wars series, it's female centric. Like, that's it? That's the most important information you have? Like, it bothers me. So people are commenting on that in the comment sections, just FYI.
Like the new trilogy has like Daisy Ridley as the lead, so that it's already done. That unique.
And
seriously,
yeah.
Have you forgotten Ripley? Have you forgotten Connor? Have you there's like the Psycho, the Birds, like all these movies with females in them, and they're like, no.
Yeah.
No. It's all about Captain Marvel.
I'm just gonna go to the comment sections for a second. It's this conversation is a lot of fun, but I always forget to keep my eye out. Neo has a message for you, Omar. He says that I'd be worried if this made sense to you as a kid. Lol. We also have a lot of people commenting on Anthony Hopkins' performance, how iconic it is. We have Stephen talking about Annihilation, how incredible it was. Also, Neo has a question: is it ironic that the woman saves a woman from a man trying to be a woman? I think that's a very interesting question. I mean, that plays into the theme.
I mean, we're talking about. Sorry, we're talking about how feminist the movie is, but Buffalo Bill is not the best representation, we'll say.
I was gonna bring that up. That's the one thing that I watched the movie. I'm like, oh, I wonder, like, you could perceive this movie today as like a little transphobic, even though I don't think that was intentional.
I don't think that's the case. They actually do mention that he is. They mention they make sure that they mention that that transsexuals do not exhibit these kinds of traits. So they do. They make a point to identify that.
To like differentiate that.
They make it clear that he is deranged and he believes that he's going to transform to a woman.
And he's actually not a transsexual.
He's just a crazy person.
Yeah. So I think.
And there's one scene with him that. Sorry to cut you off. There's one scene that I actually had to research because I felt something was off. You know when he shows the pierced nipple?
Yeah.
And I have a pierced nipple. I'm like, there's something fishy with that pierced nipple. That turned out to be a prosthetic.
Oh wow!
And like not an actual nipple.
Not an actual pierced nipple. I feel pierced nipple betrayed.
Yeah, you definitely another sect of society that is underrepresented, like the curly-haired women. Also, authentically pierced nipples need more representation. Contact Disney immediately. Start writing. Start writing. What?
It said hashtag my culture. Like, don't appropriate my culture.
Appropriate my pierced nipples. Yeah, that's not okay.
Nipple washing. Yeah.
There goes my monetization. Anyway,
that's on Buffalo Bill. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I actually, again, I don't think that Buffalo Bill is in any way. I mean, I know there was for a while there was some controversy around the film being transphobic and stuff, but I don't really believe that, to be honest. And guys, feel free to disagree. I mean, because again, it had the film not again, this is Silence of the Lambs, and watching the film, and now we're like sort of dissecting these details, we see just how much every single detail in the film matters, right? And the fact that they made it a point to have Clarice speak on camera in a giant, close-up on her face, and she says, like, but he's not, and even when she's talking to Hannibal, like, this is not the traits of a transsexual person. They're not usually violent or aggressive. They're very docile. And then, like, he says that he's not. You're gonna find that it's one of the clues. It's one of the clues that he's not a transsexual, because he told her to look at hospitals where he would have applied for a sex change and got rejected, because he is violent and deranged, and that he's not actually a true transsexual. So I think that's that's pretty good.
For sure. And I do think, like, I wouldn't say the movie is transphobic, not at all, but I think it does play on the old stereotypes of the Predator. Like, his voice is very calm, the dance and everything. Like, it does rely on some older tropes that are, maybe the movie does it a lot better.
His voice and character is based on serial killers, actual serial killers.
That's true, by the way.
Yeah.
He researched a lot of serial killers, yeah.
So if you at any moment think this can't be real about Buffalo Bill, no, it's real because somebody else did it and he's based on it.
Oh, yeah. They've done so much more. I think, like, Jeffrey Dahmer happened after Silence of the Lambs, right? So
this wait. Who was consulted? Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was consulted on this film. By the way, no, not consulted on this film. Ted Bundy was consulted. Sorry, not on the film. Ted Bundy was consulted on a case, a serial killer case, similar to the way that they consulted. The Hannibal Lecter here. And that's why, by the way, and I noticed this just now, I never noticed it before, and then I researched it, and I found this, like you, Omar, like I find something like, and then I go and I, thank God for Google, 1991 did not offer that flexibility. Anyway, so I Googled it because there was a scene where he kidnaps the girl for the first time, Catherine. When he kidnaps Catherine, he was asking her to put a chair in the car, and he had his hand bandaged, right? This is exactly the MO of Ted Bundy, because Ted Bundy used to wear a shoulder strap and have women help him carry boxes or furniture into the car, and that's how he used to get them. So I saw that, and I turned. What? Books, big boxes of books, right? Yeah. And he drops a book. Yeah, exactly. So I think those references are because Ted Bundy was consulted, and I'm like the filmmakers sort of went back to that kind of consultation. So it's pretty cool.
So have you heard?
Sorry, Yusuf?
Have you heard that I was just reading earlier today that in the 2014 reprint of the book Silence of the Lamb, Harris tried to cause a bit of controversy by saying actually Hannibal Lecter is based on a true person that he met.
Okay.
And there's still argument about whether that's actually true or whether that was like a publicity stunt.
Yeah, I think the character of Hannibal Lecter is such a well-written character. I mean, the performance obviously of Anthony Hopkins is great, but I think a lot of that has to do with just the character, like the contradiction between the fact that you have this really like learned, smart doctor, and he's also a cannibal. Like one of the worst things you could like be as a person, So like in a way, he's worse than like all the other people she goes through like before reaching his cell. Like I don't think those guys are cannibals. It's like this weird, like a very learned cannibal. I think that's just that alone, and just his dialogue, like. I've seen the Hannibal, the TV show, the Matt Mikkelsen version. Like, I think the character is so wholesome and so well written that I think any great actor can do like awesome stuff with it because the material is like right there. But obviously Anthony Hopkins is still the definitive, version of that character. But I just thought the writing is there.
Yeah, definitely. And they take us back at the beginning. They sort of have us again. We're experiencing the whole film from Clarice's point of view, and then in the beginning, she sees the disgusting, like scary. Like men who are like just horrible, and then she meets him, this class act, this very smart, well articulated, respectful person, despite him still being a psycho, but there's something really cool that then later the film makes sure you see just how much of a monster this guy actually is, and it's shocking to us, because you like him.
Exactly.
You like him at first, and then like, oh my God, this guy is insane, and you don't know. Some people root for him, some people don't, and I think
by the time that scene comes in the middle of the movie, you almost forget that he was a cannibal, and then you're like, oh right, yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, he eats people. yeah.
Oh, that's what cannibal does.
Yeah, and it's
then
really
after
cool.
his first on-screen murder, they shoot him literally like a vampire.
Yeah. Because one of the guys says, "Is he a vampire?" And it's like, I mean, he would be the closest thing to a living vampire, technically speaking. You know,
Like
that's
the
a beautiful
Boris
iconic
Karloff hair
shot.
back and
I can
the
imagine
pale
him.
lighting and everything. Like,
And you
No,
know,
I
by
can
the
imagine him
way,
as being
he
a
does
Bela
this thing
Lugosi
where
style vampire.
he actually, Anthony Hopkins does this thing where one of the things he did for this role, when you look at his performance, is the fact that he barely blinks. It's one of the things that he does is that he's constantly has his eyes open when he's talking like this, you know, and like he blinks sometimes, but if you notice, he blinks at very, very specific moments when he's making a point or when he like starts getting into someone's head. He goes, you know, like it's fucking cool when you notice it. So that's one of the things where he feels, even when he's talking in the beginning and he's just in the cell with her, he's so eerie, you know, he's so eerie. And of course, you guys probably know that I think Yusuf, you mentioned it, that the hissing sound that he makes, this thing is actually improvised by him, and Jodie Foster's reaction is actually quite authentic. She really got creeped out, and she avoided him on set as well.
See, that's amazing acting where you don't have to go out of your way like Jared Leto did in Suicide Squad to scare and get genuine reaction.
Just start eating like human remains just to kind of get the feel of it. You know, just like,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but back to Hannibal Lecter. If I'm not mistaken, he's based on quite a few serial killers. A few of them were German. Wasn't he a German descendant character?
in the novels, they do go to the backstory a bit more.
Was it German? Was German, right?
I believe so.
Yeah,
or those areas, yeah.
Because before Silence of the Lambs, there's a few serial killer cannibalists around the world. And there was one or two well-known cases in Germany. There's one in Ukraine. The Beast of Ukraine is called as well.
Yeah.
And he was also, and Buffalo Bill is actually based on multiple serial killers. The second one would be the guy that actually had a pit in his basement and had women in it. There was an actual guy that did that. So,
yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember.
Gear? Was it Gear?
I can't remember. I also can't remember the name. The third one was the guy that made he made like furniture out of the dead body parts.
That's Dahmer.
The one who inspired Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And Dahmer.
Same guy.
And Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer as well.
Did that,
yeah, he used skin as chairs and stuff. Fun topics. Fun topics to talk about.
Very fun topic.
I want to bring up a question that Stephen has asked on Facebook before, and I want to take it. And I think Faisal also, you can comment on that because you're a fellow director, so this is kind of for us. His question was referencing the improvising of the sounds that Anthony Hopkins was made. One of the questions that came in from Facebook was how essential, this is from Phoenix, hi Phoenix, how essential do you believe it is to let actors improv and chew the scenery in order to create magic like that moment? Have you as a director given this freedom to your actors before, and has it created magic? So I'll let you take it first, Faisal, go ahead.
Oh, for sure. Actually, just the last film I just made, which also had a villain sort of a character, and the actor that I cast for it, he brought so much in, like he brought physicality that I hadn't mentioned.
Plug your film, Amber.
Yeah. Okay, Amber. Yeah. Sorry. So so the actor brought so many ideas. Some of them on set, just naturally within the performance, and some of them he brought up to me like, hey, what if I do something like this? And so many of them like added so much more physicality to the role than I had written, because my character was he doesn't say a word, he's just kind of sitting there, but this guy just brought a backstory to it. So I think if you don't always have to accept it, you can always have them do a take where they do their own thing, and then you can always have a take where you kind of go just with the way you imagine it, and then you always have the option to be editing. But I always make sure that that's something that I let people do, because so many times and more often than not I've used that improvisation because it just feels real, because it comes from such an organic place in the moment. It just feels more real than a scripted thing that you wrote. And so for me, it's always been something cool that's been helpful.
Yeah, especially because for me specifically, like I'm not a big on improv, not because I'm against it. I'm big on improv in comedy more than I am in drama. But in comedy, definitely open the floodgates. Because the punchline the organic punchline is always better than the written punchline. But for me, I don't I don't necessarily have a lot of improv on set when it comes to anything dramatic, because I generally rehearse a lot. I'm a serial rehearsalist, right? Is that right? I'm a serial rehearsalist.
We understand.
Yeah. I put my actors in really like rigorous rehearsals, even if it's just a short film. They spend most of their time with me in rehearsal. So in rehearsal, there's a lot that changes, a lot of improv, a lot of trying different things that doesn't work. But always, before I make any film, I meet with my actors maybe at least a dozen times, like seriously, maybe like 12 times, 10 times. While pre-production is happening, at the end of the week, I meet with the actors again and we rehearse as much as possible. Even when I used to do the 48 hours, part of the 48 hours was about 8 hours of rehearsal, where like the crew would be setting up and doing everything and I'd be rehearsing with people. Because I believe in that a lot, because on set, when things get crazy, it's very hard to keep up with the performances. And I've always had a monitor break or didn't arrive, so I can't see what they're doing all the time. This is one of the things, like I'm the cursed monitor director. I never get a monitor. I just have to like, is that a good shot? And I'm like climbing over like the cameraman, like just to see what's going on. It's horrible. But yeah, that's why I don't do a lot of a lot of improv. Mostly it's very well rehearsed. But I think, I mean, at the end of the day, it depends on the caliber of actor that you're working with as well. In your case, in Amber, you were working with Rick Abbey, and Rick Abbey is a quite polished actor. You know what I mean?
So because you need somebody like that who understands like it's not just an idea for the sake of an idea. You know what I mean? It's not improv for the sake of it. They understand that why they're doing that move, even if it's happening. So when you're working with somebody like that, that's obviously beneficial. But yeah, when you work with newer actors, stick to the script. You know,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I involve them.
So from the sounds of it. From the sounds of it, this movie gave a lot of creative control to the actors, because Jodie Foster kind of almost directed the first scene. Anthony Hopkins improvised. I would take it that's not normal. That's quite exceptional.
I mean, it depends. I think, I mean, film is a collaborative effort, and especially back in the day, film used to be even more of a collaborative effort. You know, right now the contracts and the bureaucracy of it all, like actors and even directors don't have as much freeway as they used to. You know, they don't have enough freedom to do whatever they want like they did back in the day, where the producers and the production company just stayed on their desks and watched the cut of the film and gave their feedback there. They weren't so hands-on and micromanaging. Now things are different when you're especially talking about mainstream film, which this was sort of, is you find they interfere a lot, and there is no time for this kind of stuff. And again, keep in mind that cinema and filmmaking has changed. In the mainstream now, there's so much. It's not being filmed very traditionally on real life sets and locations. Yeah, keep in mind there's so much post work, there's so many reshoots, there's so much green screens, and it's very tough. It's not really a thespians, especially like mainstream. For like art house films and like Oscar films, yeah, that's still there. Same way Silence of the Lambs was made, these films are being made, you know? But like for big Hollywood films, you don't get a lot of that thespian craft work much, you know. It's not like that, unfortunately.
It also depends on the director. Like, for example, like No Country for Old Men, like Anton Chigurh's character, because I just watched that movie also recently, and like almost everything you see in that movie was from the text, even down to the hairstyle that the character owns. You would think maybe that's something that the actor brought to the table. Nope, there was the director saw somebody like that. They were like, so they created an iconic villain by just sticking to the script, and the actor was like, I'm going to do exactly what was asked of me. So it works both ways, you know. Like if you have a very confident directors who have a specific vision for what they want, and they get out on the screen, that also works. So it just depends on the director and what the actors are.
Yeah, definitely. And like, again, it really does, like we're saying, it really depends on the actor as well, the caliber of actor that is involved. And again, at the end of the day, Country for Old Men is a film that's again, art house. It's not the big blockbuster, you know, mainstream production studio thing where this stuff really does not really fly anymore. So it's quite different. I mean, who's to say what's better?
These are the kind of movies they don't make anymore. Like I was wondering.
They don't make them like this anymore.
Yeah, like I think honestly, if Silence of the Lambs came out today, it would probably be a Netflix original. You know, like even if it was made at the same budget, it would not be a cinematic movie.
Agreed.
Like I just watched a movie called In the Shadow of the Moon. It was a Netflix film that came out last year, which is sort of a serial killer sort of a tale. and it has the same budget as this movie, but it just came directly on Netflix. And like, I just don't think unfortunately, there is a market for this kind of movie to make $300 million. I think that's kind of what it made back in the day. Like, I don't think it's just an event film thing anymore. This is not an event film anymore for it to make that much. It'll either get like a art house Oscar release towards the end, or it'll get just a Netflix or streaming release, but it won't get this big summer or like wide release that I think it would back in the 90s.
Yeah, and we don't really do even like there's not a lot of shooting on location and things like that. I think it's really part of it. I mean, this film was shot in Quantico, in the FBI headquarters. And before this, it was never allowed, but they allowed it for this film because they consulted the FBI and they consulted the department that studies serial killers, the one from Mindhunter. What are they called? The crime thing from Mindhunter, the show. What is it called? In the comment section, guys, help us out. The department, Googling. Faisal is Googling, I see you. What is it called? The something crime unit, where they investigate serial killers, basically, in Quantico, and this film was shot there. So there's also that level of authenticity and mood that was coming out of those crime films in the 90s, because they took you inside police stations. Behavioral science unit, correct. I knew it was something unit. So they consulted them on the film, like Omar was saying, that a lot of the behavior, like the behavior of the characters of the psychos, it's 100%. So it's true, the authenticity isn't there anymore, and like filmmaking is really much different. Like you're saying, Faisal, they don't make them like that anymore. I want to, before we wrap up, because we're almost out of time, but I just want to quickly move on to the ending. I want you guys to comment on the ending of the film. And what do you think about it? Because the ending of this film is pretty cool, pretty explosive. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's iconic.
Yeah.
It's iconic. The villain wins. He gets away. He's walking into mixing. So what makes the final scene so scary is he's walking like a normal guy wearing his bohemian style clothes.
The wig. Yeah.
Like between people, and nobody would know, that he's a serial killer, cannibal genius.
Yeah, what do you think, Faisal?
Yeah, I think that's what was unique. Even when I originally watched the movie, I didn't know that. I don't think this movie was made to become a franchise. I mean, I don't think they expected to have like two like big sequels and then a TV show and stuff like that out of it. So, which I think if it was made today, they would have probably given that ending only just like, oh, we'll keep it open for a sequel. So I think that's the difference. I think it came from the text, like, oh, that would be an awesome ending, where it's like that, as you said, that mutual respect among those people. And the line that he says is that, I want a world where you're, where you're in it, and I hope you can extend the same courtesy, towards me. So it's that, like, don't worry, I'm not going to come after you, and hopefully you're not going to come after me either. And obviously that whole I'm having a friend for dinner line, like that sums it up. But I think it's really iconic in the way that it's, even like, as you said, the villain gets away, but there's still that, it still feels like a closure, because it's almost like they've resolved kind of like their feelings for each other, like, and there's that mutual respect in an uncomfortable way, but it's still there.
Yeah,
so
I really like that final scene. I love that final shot, by the way, where they just keep the camera rolling on the street and he just disappears into the crowd. It's such a cool image. Such a cool image, because it's so unsettling, because at some point you stop seeing him, like, no matter how much you follow him with your eyes, he does disappear, and now he's like just part of this world, and you're like, oh my god, these people are walking, amongst them is a cannibalist who's gonna eat them. This is crazy. And I actually think it's a very, very powerful ending. It's really nice, and it really does comment on the connection and the mental respect and connection between her and Hannibal Lecter, and it's a connection that she has with no other male in the film. Yusuf, what do you think about the ending?
Yeah, and I think it kind of does this unsettling thing where you realize that Hannibal Lecter was the protagonist all along. We're following his journey, like, fulfilling his desires. And finally he gets like a hero's ending almost, where he gets to go back to people.
Like her. So they both get a happy ending.
Yeah, exactly. They both get what they were seeking, like, the whole time. And,
Like, to comment on Faisal's comment that if this movie was made today, I can so imagine it right now by Blumhouse, and it'll be like their 15th movie in 1 month, and and that's how what most people don't understand. Every movie producing company is a business end of the day, and each of them have their own model. One model is the Blumhouse, where they release so many movies a year. You're thinking, is that even humanly possible? And some of them are actually not bad. There's one that I watched about a girl stranded on an island, and there's like a sea creature, a sea monster in it, and it's really well done. It's pretty good. And then you have the garbage ones, and then you have like movie companies that want to make the big 1 billion budget. Let's film it somewhere in China or have Chinese actors so it can be shown in China and make more money, like Transformers, for example.
Yeah.
And then you have indie, independent movies that sometimes they hit gold, like the original Paranormal Activity that did very well. The Blair Witch Project. So you can have these artistic movies
but
that are
there used to be a middle ground between those things. So like the Blumhouse, which is like under $10 million movies, and then there are $150 million movies. They used to be with stuff like Razz Lab. They used to be like the $50 million movie, the $60 million movie, like these kind of middle budget movies that don't have to make that much money. But now it's like you either go super low budget and you make it like mostly a genre horror film, and then it's pretty much profitable almost always because it's made for so low. Or you have this huge big budget movie that has to open in the middle of the summer on like 5,000 screens, and then it's a profit movie. What happened to the middle $50-$60 million movies? They're gone.
But let's be honest, the middle movies are like the Blumhouse movies, because you can go lower than, and I watch movies that go lower than that.
Yeah, but Blumhouse never made a movie above like, I think Glass was the biggest movie, which for like $20 million, I think, but that's only because they had like Bruce Willis and people in it. But their whole model is they're gonna make something for super cheap. So that's why they can keep creative control. But like something like Seven, for example, or this movie, these are like $50-$60 million movies. What's the last great crime movie that you saw for that in that budget range, where it had like sort of A-list actors and they had the production value of this one, where it's hopping cities and it's doing all of that stuff. Most of them, like if this movie was made at the Blumhouse budget, like this would be a contained film, pretty much entirely taking place in one location, in one thing, and trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
But like the scale that this movie had, I wonder if we'll ever get movies like this. Genre films like that.
I think you see that on TV mostly now than movies.
Exactly,
that was his point. I agree. Like that's a very interesting point of view. I agree, and I've been saying this whole stream, like they don't make them like this anymore, which is true. You're right. If this was done right now, and it was done under whether it's Blumhouse or anybody else, you're right. It would be kind of like what's the movie with the Quiet or Don't Make a Noise or whatever. Things like that, like not just A Quiet Place.
Yeah,
no,
even like,
there was another one where they're in a house and the guy is blind and they have to stay quiet.
Oh, Don't Peek. Yeah.
Don't. Yeah.
I can imagine the article title. Scariest movie since Bird Box.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but he's right. It would definitely go straight to stream. Yeah,
like James McAvoy's film, the M. Night Shyamalan film Split, which is kind of a serial killer sort of a movie as well. But again, that was made for $10 million, and that was a contained movie for the most part. It takes place in one location. So if that movie was made today, it would be, even with an actor that is known, it would be made in that kind of like, let's make it so cheap that we can do whatever we want. The freedom that they had to kind of do shockingly violent stuff. You wouldn't get that at the $50 million level anymore. You would be like, oh, cool. If you want to do that, make it for 10, so that even if we lose or alienate a bunch of people, we'll still make money.
Yeah, I also feel like they wouldn't.
There's a good chance that.
Sorry, I also feel like they wouldn't take these risks anymore, especially with the visual treatment of the film, the interesting different angles. Right now, a lot of these films, especially horror in the horror genre, have become a little bit formulaic. You have certain directors who break that formula, like Ari Aster. But that's only one guy, Mostly we're following the same sort of stylistic choices, camera framing, things like that. Here in this film, this film is visually magnificent. Like I wish I had another hour to talk about that kind of stuff. Like when they're in their cell, the two of them having the conversation, and he's getting the truth out of them, and like the bars start disappearing, and the camera goes into this insane extreme close-up of their faces, and they're connecting, and he's getting in her head. Like it's insane. You don't get that stuff anymore. We just get the action, dark shots, jump scares. You know what I mean? You don't have that stylistic. And crime films are.
I feel like the 90s is completely underrated in terms of movie history.
They just announced like 2-3 months ago that Clarice, like they're gonna have a show called Clarice on CBS following this character and her thing. And then there was the Hannibal TV show on NBC. So it's like now unfortunately this kind of thing is now just a TV show.
Yeah.
You know, it's no longer viable as a movie, unfortunately.
It's the golden age of film of TV. That's where we are. We're in the golden age of
In
television.
defense of horror movie, somebody Shree just posted that
Huh.
Invisible Man was good, and it did do something very different there. Like
Yes,
they were trying.
yes. But unfortunately, it came out during Corona. It just got super unlucky. I think if it came out during a normal time, this movie would have been just as like it would have had the kind of buzz that like the first couple of Conjuring films would have gotten. It's actually a very, very, very nice horror film.
Yeah, and it's visually like unique because
Exactly.
it finds like you new you carry without. I was like, wow, this finally after a long time I'm seeing a director actually having like a specific vision visually.
A director directing. Directing.
Exactly. Yeah.
What the thoughts?
No, it's also because of the current situation with the Corona apocalypse. And I was reading an article how Trolls could be the gate to the next generation of movie making because it actually made 300 million from streaming.
Which is why
It actually made a profit.
So they just on streaming. They just released it on iTunes and VOD and all of that stuff, and it made 100 million in the first week, and it's probably like around 300 million now. So now it's like, okay, wow, maybe theater is not that important. You just release them on.
That's the scary part. So in a year from now, cinemas could be gone.
That would be a huge shame, huge loss.
That's a whole other discussion, guys. I can't not comment.
People like to go to the mall.
That's a whole other...
So it's gonna be MCU movies, it's gonna be Star Wars movies, and that's pretty much it. So Disney will have cinemas, and everybody else is probably gonna be on other platforms.
I want to give a virtual high five to all the Robert Eggers fans in the chat room. Yes, The Witch, Lighthouse.
Oh, yeah.
The Witch.
The Witch is amazing.
The Witch is amazing. And you know what? I've been releasing almost on a weekly basis 5 recommended horror movies and genres. And I'm going by the oldest in the collection. So if Razz should check out some of them.
Sure.
And the next one I'm releasing is Apocalyptic.
Nice.
And
we started this. If you guys go back to the previous streams, which didn't have people on, it was just me rambling. But anyway, and people talking in the chat. But a lot of people talking in the chat. But yeah, the first 2 films we had were dystopian. The first film we got was A Clockwork Orange, and then that was followed by, and this from the hat, and that was followed by Children of Men. So our first 2 films were very apocalyptic, which was actually pretty funny. That's pretty cool. Cool. All right. Well, I think it's time for us to wrap up. We've gone a little bit over this time, but it's been a very interesting subject. We've diverted, but it was cool.
Got your Chianti ready? Your fava beans?
What?
So you got your fava beans and Chianti ready?
Yeah. It's time to have an old friend for dinner. Yeah. We just gotta. I gotta just do the pick from the hat to see what we're gonna get and what we're gonna watch. So get ready, guys. Get ready. Here we go. I'm having trouble getting it in view. That's to be said.
Remove the green screen.
No, there we go. There we go. I got it. It's gonna work.
Yeah, just keep it in front of you. It's gonna work.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Hold on. Okay. Drum roll, please.
Yep, that's it.
Did you pick?
I picked 2. I dropped 1. Okay. There are 2 of them. Like. Okay. Ooh. This is gonna be interesting. I wonder if this is gonna get me any traffic. I don't think so, but let's see. Our next film is. Can you see it? Can you guys
Can't
see
see
it?
anything.
I can't see anything. It's this weak.
Hold on. There. Come on. There we go.
What? Vertigo.
Oh, nice.
Vertigo.
Finally, some Hitchcock.
Some
Awesome.
Hitchcock.
In there. I love it.
Classy. Now we're going classy. Now we're gonna be. I expect people to wear suits. But yeah, Vertigo. Vertigo is our next film, guys. We're going really, really back. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, Vertigo it is. So that's awesome. I'm very excited. So I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Omar, Faisal, Yusuf, thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully I'll see you next week. Here's your homework. Watch Vertigo. Join us in the chat so we can talk about it. Whoever wants to jump in on the live, guys, message me on Facebook, message me on Instagram, and I'll arrange for you guys to jump in. See, I hope you guys had fun. It's fun to be here and talk about movies in our little movie club. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you next Tuesday at 8. Guys, just plug in your social media before I sign out. So where can people find you guys? Go Hashmi.
So you can find me on Twitter at Faisal Hashmi, the same word. Instagram, Faisal Hashmi Film. So that's the 2 main places you can find me.
Well, you can follow me at LK Show UAE. I don't know, maybe if I share screen here and I show you guys the... Wait. Share screen. Okay, I hope nothing embarrassing shows.
Oh, God, please, don't...
Oh, shit. No, okay.
There you go. Well, LK Show UAE.
It's actually not showing, by the way. It's just like a selfie of you. A quite nice one,
yeah,
if I may add.
Really?
A pretty good one.
Those right there.
That's a nice picture.
Oh, I didn't give permission to the app. 1 second. Is this now showing?
It's still a fantastic image of you. I would print that. I would frame that. That's pretty nice.
Accidental perfect picture.
There we go. It's working now.
Okay. I don't think it's gonna show for me. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Is
So you kind of like.
it showing or not?
No.
It
Disaster.
doesn't show on YouTube.
No, disaster.
Yeah, no, not really.
Disaster.
Nothing.
Just
All right,
shut it down.
anyways.
Shut it down.
Anyways, it's LK
Hold on,
Show
guys.
UAE.
It's not showing. You destroyed my feed. Now we're just a black screen. Oh my God.
Oh.
Okay. I don't know how to fix this.
You guys can't hear, but in the other room, my wife just threatened to stab someone in the eye.
Okay, so we kind of went black, unfortunately. Anyway, Yusuf, on the black screen, you may tell us where people can find you on social media.
Yes. Oh God, I forgot what my Facebook name is. You'll find me posting on the Facebook page on movies. You'll just find me there. On Instagram, I'm Yousef86, YOUSEF86, and that's pretty much it. I don't do Twitter.
Okay. All right. Well, might as well just close it up. I can't open it. So thanks
No
so
one
much.
can see us right now. What you think? If I just dab, no one's gonna.
All right. We'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for having us. Bye. You're awesome.